Absolutely. Yes. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, also, prior to me doing the ICF assessor course, I was also iffy about it. I wasn't so sure. Like, there's a brief description on the list of competencies, but it's not like comprehensive, really.
Exactly.
So I absolutely agree with you. And I second everything that you just said because, yeah, I mean, this is why I chose this topic because I think it's often um, disregarded or misregarded by some people. So
Mhm.
hopefully today we're going to shed some light on this topic. And please, if you guys have questions at the end of this, I'm going to open the floor for questions and I'll be happy to answer them. All right. So should we start? It's 8:07 now. Oh,
Yes, please. You
all
can
right.
go ahead if you wanna. Yeah.
So I'm just going to stop sharing here and use my other presentation that I got prepared for you guys. Okay. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So welcome everybody. My name is Razan Kilani. I'm an ICF MCC. And I chose this topic as we were just chatting about it because I when I mentor uh, practicing coaches, I realized that some of them might have a poor understanding of this particular competency, and it's a qualifier. So, what does that mean? It means that any recording that you're going to share with the ICF needs to qualify as a coaching recording. So, it's one of the qualifiers. And the first one is the ethical practice. So, that's qualifier number one. And competency two is qualifier number two. So this is why I chose to talk about the topic. So basically, a brief introduction to today's topic is that embodying a coaching mindset means it's a continuous journey of growth and self-discovery. And this is what I love about this particular competency two, is that it it doesn't oblige, but it sort of implies that it's every coach's duty to to continue growing, to continue learning, to continue practicing, to continue self-discovery. It's a commitment at the end of the day. So dedication to self-reflection, this is something that I think seldom uh, beginner coaches or even practicing coaches do. Self coaching is precisely important because it helps you fine tune your performance as a coach. And also, it helps you unearth limiting beliefs. And so, if you go on coaching other people, meanwhile, you're filtering their answers to your question through that lens, that you've always had, that social lens, which means that you've always looked at life using that lens. You've always looked at life based on the social programming that you've had ever since you were a child. So what happens is when you're coaching someone else, you need to almost null your existence in terms of the social input that you include in the conversation. Meaning we're all eyes and ears on our clients. And so sometimes we find ourselves drifting apart or drifting away and not sort of understanding the client as we ought to do. And so, what happens when an idea pops up is that we get distracted. And then when we get distracted, we're not present enough. And so, this is a crisis because this features in the coaching conversation. It shows that the energy of the coach might drop, or the eyes of the coach might look away, or the coach might need to catch up with that lapse of awareness that took place as a result of that distracted thought. And so eventually the coach might feel the need to prove that he or she's been listening. And so then they might instruct or lead. Okay. And so what it says here is that it's a continuous journey of growth and self-discovery. It requires a commitment to ongoing learning, a dedication to self-reflection, and thorough session preparation, meaning you arrive at the session like emptying your mind, anchoring your presence, and allowing yourself to receive the client, to be ready to receive the client. So coaches can create transformative coaching relationships that really empower their clients to achieve their goals by being and embodying a coaching mindset. So being present and embodying a coaching mindset are key today in our conversation. So it's not just a competency. This is what I wanted to highlight. It's not just competency. It's a way of being, as Iman said earlier. It's the heart and soul of effective coaching. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute here and listen to you guys. So what are your thoughts on what you have just listened to? Anything that came up for you? Anything that made sense? Huda?
Yeah, excuse me not being on video.
It's okay.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it resonates with me, everything you said. And what really caught my attention is to what degree we are present as a coach. Like you said, the word present enough. What we keep using is we're either present or not present. But the reality is, are we present enough through the journey of being in contact with the client? And that by itself, it's a subject that we can talk, and it's something to really reflect and be mindful about. How to be present enough, and what is being present enough.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So based on the remarks that I've just made, what popped up in your mind? What did you notice of utmost importance? I'm going to listen to Rania as you guys think about my question. Yes, Rania, go ahead.
Yes, Razan. Something resonated with me is how honest should I be with myself to determine whether I am in the coaching mindset or not. No. So this is something that I'm even getting goosebumps on that. So goosebumps are a signal that something is happening. So I think sometimes we require to be really honest. If we don't feel like doing a coaching session because our mind might jump into the judges mode, so I would say I'm not in the right mindset to do the coaching.
Absolutely.
So this is what popped up in my head.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, integrity, like I've canceled sessions before when I was not feeling like it, because we're humans. I mean, we could go through hard days. Sometimes we're just not in the right mood. And so we have to be honest to ourselves. Now, having said that, some clients do find a way to oblige you, but they nag you, they insist. And so what I always say to them is that when I'm with you, I would love to be fully present with you. And so I feel that today I'm not capable of doing that. And I wonder if we could postpone this, or if we can do it some other day. So you can do that. But however, it's a little bit discouraged, because if someone books a session with you, unless it's emergency, then you would want to commit to them, because it's a professional engagement at the end of the day. Yes, Alexander, go ahead.
Yes, I think it's really not a competence. It's a way of being. But when you are being, you are allow the client be in his own values, in his own decision, and in his own responsibility for his life.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
you are allowing him to build his life, his future life, on his own values.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So our clients are paying us for the space, the safe space we create for them in the session. And so there is no space for our own intrusive thoughts. So when we are present with our clients, it's only the client and the client's feelings and thoughts and detail that are of importance. Outside of the session, this is what I always say: if something pops up in your mind when you're listening to someone or a client, just park it to the side and revisit that after the session. So this is where self-reflection is important. So self-reflection allows you to journal about what triggers you, or the ideas, the automatic judgments sometimes that popped up in your mind as a result of you hearing certain words or liking or disliking something about what the client was talking about. Okay, so this is a very important point. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's get back to the slideshow. Can you all see my screen? Yeah. So as I said earlier, it's a journey, right? So I put this image of this person who's, in a state of, or he's on a path, he's on a journey, right? So us coaches, it feels like that sometimes, like when you're trekking, there's a mountain, there's a hill, and sometimes, it's much easier to trek, and the landscape is much easier. And so the same thing happens within session. When we're listening to our different clients, some clients are a little bit harder for us to understand or contain, right? Or sometimes it's hard for us to contain their energy as well, especially if their energy is significant. And so this is a journey. This is a journey that you need to be committed to, which is the journey of wanting to support other people to become their best selves, or to move their lives from the ordinary to the extraordinary level that they can cater to. So, it's an ongoing development type of thing, and also it cannot be captured in 1 minute. So for example, or in one moment. So for example, I've just received my certificate. I'm good. I don't need to develop in any in further skills or competency. I'm there, right? It's not like that. So the certificate is the beginning of this journey, right? So whatever you encounter on this journey is a learning opportunity. If we think about it this way, we're adopting a growth mindset. And so what is a growth mindset? Anyone knows what's a growth mindset? Anyone has any idea what that means?
It's where your mind keep growing and learning instead of being fixed all the time in certain
Absolutely.
ideas or methods, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom?
So I think a fixed mindset says these are my competencies and I can never go beyond those. A growth mindset says these things are possible, I just haven't done them yet. Yes. Or they may be competencies, but I haven't exercised them yet. So having that understanding or adoption of a growth mindset, you don't say no, you may say not yet. So maybe I haven't done it, or I'm not good at it. Maybe it's because it hasn't been the right time, but the growth mindset says there will be a time for that.
Absolutely. So Carol Dweck, in her book Mindset, talked about the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. So embodying coaching mindset is definitely a growth mindset. It's a mindset that takes on any challenge and learns from it and grows from it. Yes, Huda?
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. First, I loved what Tom and Nancy reflected on. I totally agree with, but I just like to add that with a growth mindset, that means you are investing on having a neuroplasticity mind all the time, and it's elastic. So your perception, your reaction, the lens that you put seeing things, the options that you see will continue endless. It's like unlimited.
Yeah.
So the more you invest in a growth mindset in various ways, new neuroplasticity occurs, and
Absolutely.
that is reflected during the session.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Absolutely. So, acknowledging that our brains are neuroplastic, right? Whereas if you have a fixed mindset, you don't acknowledge that. You think that, life will always be the same. All people are this way or that. Coaching is this and that's it. My working as a coach is that, and it will never change. It's a life sentence type of thing. So you're not acknowledging that your own brain is neuroplastic. And so it molds itself into any learning that you acquire at any age. So previously, in research, it was thought that, at certain age, you can't learn. Whereas now, neuroscience has proven that this is wrong. You can learn anything at any age, which again acknowledges the neuroplasticity of your brain. So absolutely. Thank you, Huda, for bringing in the neuroplasticity topic. Absolutely. All right. So then embodying coaching mindset means that we are open, curious, flexible, and client-centered. So what I love about the description of this competency that the ICF has put together is that it's so accurate. So for example, the word open means continuous growth. Curious means you're coming from a place of not judgment, not judging. You're coming from a place where you're open to learning out of curiosity, not judging the client for their, for the thoughts that they've just shared or their opinions or their feelings, etc. Flexible means that you're not taking authority or ownership of the destination of this conversation. So you don't put your agenda on top of the client's agenda. So this is what it means to be flexible. So if the client, for example, changes the route throughout the conversation, sometimes we need to recontract with them, meaning we need to reestablish the coaching agreement, especially if we still have time. So it's up to the client. It's the client's agenda that we cater to as coaches. And so this is what client-centered means, is that we focus on where the client is taking us. We never tell the client what is right or what is wrong or what we think, or whether we like their thoughts or not, whether we disagree with them, whether, we never suggest ideas. We never assume that we're the experts in the client's lives, because in coaching, we acknowledge that every client is the expert in their own life. So I could have 30 years of experience in emotional intelligence, for example, but when I'm coaching my client, I'm viewing my client as the expert in their own life. So it's not up to me to tell them what is right and what is wrong and what's most suitable to them. So this, obviously, we've all been raised differently. And so, part of our social programming might have entailed us being told what to do. And so we would have to, I would say, build on that or modify that and turn it into not telling people what we think as we grow up. Instead, we learn to listen, because as kids, we understood the value of being listened to. And so if we were always constantly, if we were constantly told what to do, then there wasn't much listening to our own thoughts and needs there. So if we learn that while growing up, we have to modify it into wanting to listen to the other person and viewing them based on how they depict themselves before us or how they depict themselves to us, instead of us seeing them a particular way based on my social upbringing or the way I was told about things. And so this requires commitment, right? So this is a challenge. This is why I love the word challenge at the beginning. When we were chatting, it is a challenge to, I don't like the word unlearn. We can't really unlearn something, but we can upgrade it. We can update it. We can modify it. So we can grow. And this is, again, what it means to have, to embody a coaching mindset, to commit to not knowing, to commit to not wanting to control the course of the conversation, to commit to not knowing the answers and allowing the client to figure things out for themselves. And so this requires ongoing development and learning. So attending webinars such as this one, reading, journaling, lots of journaling. And this is the point that comes afterwards, which is establishing a reflective practice. So following your coaching sessions, when you notice that, within the session, something triggered you, park it to the side. After the session, journal about it, because if you don't, it's going to always remain as a black box, and then it's going to continue popping up in future sessions and distract you. And then it's your agenda versus the client's agenda. So when you lose presence as a result of distraction or judgment, this really makes your performance lower, right? Anyone wanted to say something? Someone wanted to say something? No?
Ask a question rather than saying something. So everything that you're saying is resonating with me. And for me, I'm wondering, it's so important what you're saying. I'm wondering, is there any type of an affirmation or a meditation or prayer or whatever you want to call it that can help you as you're getting to your last bullet point of being prepared, to help you prepare prior to make sure that your mindset is correct? Are you aware of anything like that, like an affirmation that you could read that just stresses those points, but allows you to say, I will be present, I will, not do these things?
Yes. So thank you. That's an interesting question. So different affirmations could differ, could be different for everybody. But I'm going to tell you what I say to myself. If something pops up inside my mind, I always say, it's the client's agenda, it's not mine. It's the client's agenda, it's not mine. Or I'm opening this space for my client, and I won't allow anything to distract me. So these are the two things that I remind myself of if I get distracted while listening to the client. Yes, Huda.
Yes, what I do is I ground myself. And just feeling the floor and the chair that I'm sitting on, and and then I put an intention, and my intention is actually the words of ICF definition. It's being open, it's being curious, it's being flexible. So if when I do this, like I bring back to myself to the moment and to my breathing, and I ground myself, and I put the intention of exactly the definition of the ICF, the words, the 4 words, then I am in a better, the session flows in a smoother way. And sometimes actually I repeat that, but without the definition, with the client, so as they are disconnected from whatever baggage they brought to the session as well.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. Something else that I also say to myself, if something like really insists, like a thought is quite intrusive and really insists on my attention, what I say is, it's not about me, it's about the client. It's not about me, it's about the client. I'm going to tell you another situation where sometimes some clients are confrontational. Sometimes they say something that's, I'm not going to say rude, but sort of confrontational. or sometimes they lash out at you, sometimes, different clients do different things. And so when that happens, remember to remain professional and remind yourself that it's not about me, it's about the client. So what is the client showing me here? What is the client saying to me? In other words, but some clients speak non-verbally, some clients huff or puff or cry or yell or stare or do different things. And so if I'm going to take that personally, then I have a fixed mindset, because what I'm doing is I'm judging what I'm seeing from my client. Whereas if I'm embodying coaching mindset, I could reverse that. This could be my key to really open up that client's brain and also bring them, like draw them closer to me, get them to trust me further. So I would say, okay, so what would you like us to talk about next? Or what would you like to happen right now in our conversation? So always giving back the authority to the client. This by itself shows the client that it's not you who's the captain of their ship. Rather, they have to grab ownership of that and to take responsibility for their own growth and their own change. And you are modeling that. So as you grow, so do your clients. Yes, Alexander, I'm sorry I kept you waiting.
Everything okay. I just recalled something. There is a metaphor like coach is a mirror for client, and the client is a reflection in this mirror.
Yeah.
So the task of a coach is help this mirror to disappear. Just the reflection of a client is stay here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I love the analogy of the mirror. Absolutely. We are the mirror of the client. In other words, and this is actually the difference between one coach and another. So it's how the client exhibits themselves and exposes their inner world to you differs. Some coaches hold such a safe space and an open space, and they really support and encourage the clients to open up and to try new things, to try considering new things or thinking about things in a new way. Whereas other coaches would just stop there. So, for example, one of the questions that I received from a coach previously was, I can't stand this client, they're just so rude and, and so on. And I said, what makes you think that they're rude? They're like, I ask them questions, but they don't answer. That's rude. I feel like I'm talking to the wall. And so this is a fixed mindset, right? So if a client in your own imagination has to respond in a certain way, then you're having a fixed mindset on things. Whereas if you have a growth mindset, you're going to be curious. What's making the client not answer? Sometimes you might devise like different tools for communication or different ways and different prompts that you could have on the table to allow the client to express themselves. Not all clients are good at talking. Some of them are more kinesthetic. So they want to draw something, they want to write in front of you. Others might want to build something or, use something tactile. So it's up to you really to conjure that up, to help the client express themselves the best way they can. So it's not about your questions. Again, insisting on being myself, like this is a type of fixed mindset, like the client is not answering. This is rude, right? So I'm judging and also I'm closing down any possibility for understanding my client. And so we can see there's a mismatch here. So what I invited that coach to do, because that person was having such strong emotions, negative emotions against their client. So I just advised them to either start again with the client and express their points in a discovery session, or to discontinue, like to apologize and discontinue. Because eventually we need to have chemistry with our clients. We need to make sure that both of us are a good match for one another. Good point, you guys. So I'm just going to read the comments. Yeah, I've heard that having a grounding exercise with your client at the start of the session can really settle the mental chatter for both parties. Absolutely. So this is the final point, which is session preparation, right? So we need to arrive a little bit in advance. So we should not rush into our sessions. We need to arrive a little bit earlier in order for us to anchor our awareness and to be able to receive more information. So, for example, if something happened at work and I've just left work and that thing is still on my mind and I'm still boiling, and then I arrive before the session, like 3 minutes before the session, and I'm sitting with my client and I'm thinking, I'm obsessing about that thing that that upset me at work. So this is obviously not good, because you're not going to be committed to offering the client the best space and the safest space for them to express themselves. And so this means that you're not present enough, right? So I really want to highlight this point. So as we said earlier, the elements of embodying coaching mindset is reflective practice. If that happens with you, make sure to go back home, commit to that, and journal about it. Don't allow anything to go away or dismiss it or say, they are wrong, I'm not, right? So this is, again, another example of fixed mindset. Also, you can research, learn more about it, read more articles. Ask yourself, how can I embody a growth mindset in that incident? When my client said so and so, that triggered me. How can I shift into an open mindset that is curious and not judging? And then session preparation, right? So we need to arrive at least half an hour prior to the session and become aware. For example, if the place that we're meeting at, there's no electricity, or if there is some noise coming from the street, or if there are loud people chatting right next to us, I can change my place. And so it's always recommended that you arrive beforehand and to choose the best spot in the place where you're at in order for you to be fully present. Always remember that I'm here for the client. It's not about me, it's about the client. Anything I commit, we need to really take that or make that pledge. I pledge to not make this session about me. It's about the client. Anything that should pop up will be revisited later after the session in my journal. So this is absolutely important. So in a nutshell, a coaching mindset is characterized by being open, curious, flexible, and client-centered. It's not a static state. It's very flexible. It goes where the client wants it to go. And that's why you grow with every client. So you grow with your clients. Growth is not limited to the client. It also includes you. So you both grow. And so you need to integrate all these principles into your coaching practice. And this is why I love that the ICF has included this, to commit to journaling, to reflect on what happens in your sessions. Also, ongoing learning, as I said, there are lots of tools, lots of theories out there, lots of methodologies. You can hire someone to mentor you. You can hire someone to explain some things to you, especially if they have more experience, and also to support you to shift into a growth mindset, a coaching mindset. And this is the reflection. It's the cornerstone of personal and professional growth. It's a reflective practice that involves introspection. So when I'm on my own, then I allow myself to go within. So introspection is something that I do outside of the session, not inside the session if I get triggered. And so this is a good opportunity for self-awareness. And also, we need to really regulate our attention. So when we're listening to our clients, again, if I feel that, you know, my blood is boiling or I'm being provoked by something that the client is saying. So for example, if I come from a culture, you know, where domestic abuse is not permissible and it's punishable by law, and my client is relating a story about, you know, herself or someone close that, you know, was a victim to domestic violence, then I should not feel triggered by this. I should not judge the client. It's not about me. It's not about the country that I come from or the culture that I come from. When I'm present with my client, my presence is universal. It really is open and flexible enough to receive everything that the client has to say. After the session, I can revisit those thoughts, those intrusive thoughts. You know, this person comes from this culture. They're so primitive. And then notice, examine your thoughts. What are you doing? You're judging the client. If you judge the client, then you have a fixed mindset. You will never understand the client. You can never be present with them 100%, which is what they're paying you for. And so again, this affects your performance. Again, you know, preparing for the session, as I said, arrive at least a little bit earlier, minimum 20 minutes before the session. So you can calm yourself down, anchor yourself, empty your mind of any intrusive thoughts, at least for this hour. Just take a break. You know, if your mind insists, just say, I'm going to take a break. I'm not going to think about this now, right? And also, most important thing is to set a clear intention for each session. So for example, if there's a client that I least like them, like I don't like that particular client, but you know, they've been my client for a while, and that person, I like them the least among all of my clients, this should not matter. So set a clear intention, commit to opening up that space, and come from a place of curiosity in order for you to better coach that person. So in a nutshell, coaches show their commitment to client-centered coaching, their flexibility in adapting to clients' needs, and their ability to maintain a reflective and evolving practice. So these competencies distinguish professional coaches who embody a coaching mindset from others, right? And this also shows that they are dedicated to growth and to the well-being of the clients. So this is what we want to show our clients. So just very briefly, I want to touch upon the behavior. So how can we embody a coaching mindset in practice? So in the definition of embodying coaching mindset, these competencies are mentioned. What are they? So cultivating trust and safety. Because if I'm having a fixed mindset, or if I'm judging the client, then I am really lowering the chances of me creating a space that is safe where the client can trust me, right? So we need to acknowledge and respect the client for who they are, regardless of what culture or what background they come from, and regardless of the social programming that I've had growing up, you know, towards that person or that person's country or culture, etc. Also acknowledging and supporting the client's way of expressing their feelings and their perceptions and their concerns and their beliefs and their suggestions. Like sometimes you might find yourself judging the client for overreacting towards something that you consider is minimal, right? So again, it's not my agenda, it's the client's agenda. Also, we partner with the client to respond in any way that they want. So we follow their agenda. Maintaining presence, so acting in response to the whole person of the client, to the who of the client, not the story, not the what. And also we partner with a client to support them to choose what happens in the session. We demonstrate curiosity at all times. Active listening. This is why I put this picture right here. You see this person is all ears, right? So active listening. This is what the client is paying us for. You know, they're paying us to listen to them. So we need to customize whatever we say to the client according to the client's way of expression, and also the terms and expressions that the client uses. And we also invite the client to explore, how they're perceiving themselves in relation to the outer world. Also, how they want to perceive themselves, in the future. So basically, this brings us to the end of the slideshow. Just going to take questions now. I can see that, Iman, you've raised your hand. Please go ahead. Sorry for keeping you waiting.
No, it's okay. We were just talking about the topic, so I thought it might help. That the client is coming to the session and she or he is not at ease. They're not comfortable. There's something wrong with them. They're not themselves, not the person that I used to work with them. I just ask them after I try to make them have some rest and breathe a little bit. And then what is the level of their focus, and what is the level of their energy, their openness.
Yes.
And I leave it to them to choose or say, yes, it's that. So we begin with something that is caring for them. They are choosing it. No one is putting this on them. And we see where we are. And then at the end of the session, I ask them again, so now, where are you?
Absolutely. Yeah, like bringing their awareness, within, getting them to look at that thought or that feeling introspectively. So what does that mean? This is exactly what I meant by, not reacting, because some clients are confrontational and some clients can be a little bit not rude, but sort of, raw, right, in their expressions. And so if I'm noticing that, I can take it personally and have a fixed mindset about it, or I can embody a coaching mindset and come from a place of curiosity. What made this client express themselves this way? Why did they huff and puff in my face? What happened there? Where did I lose them, right? Or where did they lose their trust in me? So it's a chance for me to evoke awareness, which is also the competency number 7, right? Helping the client evoke awareness, understanding. So if I'm not embodying coaching mindset or an open mindset, how can I evoke awareness in anyone, right? I can't, because I need to do that, on my own. I need to do that with myself when I'm alone, when I'm journaling, when I'm reflecting. I need to understand what is happening. I need to evoke awareness. What about what my client did triggered me today? Or I can even ask the client, what about my question that triggered you now to say so-and-so, or that made you say so-and-so, or what about this that offended you? So it depends on what the client says. So for example, if the client says, you know what, your question triggered my anger here. Okay, so what about it that made you angry, right? Or triggered your anger? You use the same expressions that the client used. Absolutely. So any invitation to get the client to bring their awareness within is absolutely a very good exercise or a very good tool to use. I think someone else raised their hand. Is that Huda? Or you typed your comment here in the chat box, right? So during the coaching session, if my mind drifts, I acknowledge the thought without judgment and let go of it. I say to myself, thinking or judging, and then turn my full focus back to the client. So sometimes if we immerse ourselves into the thought that pops up in our mind, we lose eye contact with the client. Like sometimes if the idea is so invasive, then you can seek permission. So if you feel that you can't focus, you need to, you can't park the idea aside for the moment. So you can seek permission. You can say, can I take a minute to just jot something down? And then write it down, get it out of your system, and convince your brain that you promise that you're going back to it, right? Because different coaches react to different things. And so it's bound to happen, to some of us, or maybe all of us at certain times or different times. And so if you feel that the idea is so pervasive, in order for you not to lose that presence or focus with your client, and eye contact, especially because eye contact has a lot to do with creating trust and safety with the client. So you can seek permission to write down just very briefly a word or two, just get it out of your system. But, if you can park it to the side, this is best. Okay. So any questions, anybody? So the more you coach, the more you see. And so if you see this is happening with you, then remember that it's never about you. When you're in conversation with a client, it's never about you knowing too much, too little. Because these are the mistakes that I see students do sometimes, because I teach coaching. And so sometimes when I ask them, what happened there? There was a disconnect. And then the coach says, well, I just felt like I knew nothing about what my client was talking about. And then they lose confidence. So a good coach is one that has confidence, right? So we need to have confidence in the fact that in coaching, we don't need to be the experts in the client's life. They will always be the experts in their own lives, and we have to respect that. Okay. Anyone has any thoughts to share or takeaways, maybe, before we conclude? We have 5 more minutes to go. What popped up for you? What came up for you listening today? Yes, Alexandra.
I just remember Avatar film and how they greet each other. I see you. So it seems to me that it's very close to this competence.
Can you say that again? I'm not sure I got your point. So how people greet each other? Is that what you're saying?
Greeting each other.
Mm-hmm.
I see you.
Uh-huh.
Instead of hello, yes. So I think that it's very close to this competence.
Yes. And some people say, I feel you, right? To express empathy. So empathy plays a major role in us embodying coaching mindset. And the reason behind that is because you are not assuming that you're yourself or your persona. Rather, you are putting yourself in the client's shoes and empathizing with them. You're trying to understand how things feel from the perspective of the client. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Alexander.
Sorry, I don't have a hand because I'm the
go
host. I do have a question when you talked about the empathy. Like sometimes we may get too involved, like feeling bad about that client. So how can we not let these emotions kicks in for a little bit?
Okay, so it's bad enough that the client is reacting to the situation they're in. And so they don't need us to react to. They're coming to vent out. So in my mind, I should think, as my client's coach, I need to be their sounding board. I can never be a sounding board if I can't hold myself accountable to not not neutralizing my presence, right? So I need to commit to neutralizing my presence. I should not put myself in the equation. It's not my agenda, it's the client's agenda. The client is paying me to open up a space for them to express themselves in whatever way they want. And I should be making them feel safe, right? So if I start reacting, they might feel responsible for my reaction. And now you're both distracted from the main course of the conversation. So I'm my client's sounding board. And so I don't need to react with my client. I can understand their pain, but I don't need to react to it because it's not me. This is not me. It's not about me. It's about the client. Does that make sense? Does that help? Fantastic. Yes, Huda.
Yeah, to elaborate on what you have just mentioned, it's confusing a little bit because, yes, for sure, we need to keep reminding ourselves that it's not me, it's all about them. But at the same time, practicing empathy is very powerful.
Yeah.
But empathy has three phases. It can be just a gesture, and it can be on a cognitive level that, I feel with you, I know what you're saying, and it can be action. And the most powerful one is the combined one. So, what I'm trying to reach is, it's so wise from the coach to practice empathy, but at the same time, know self-boundaries and keep reminding themselves. But practicing empathy will allow the client to feel validated, and it is okay, whatever they feel. So as they have this green light to continue ventilating and talking and all of this, finally someone understands what I'm talking about. And it doesn't need that the coach is understanding. It's being curious, and it's not about the coach. So empathy is really a very winning card, but it's at the same time a very tricky one.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it was you who called this competency a challenge, right? At the beginning?
Can you repeat that?
I think it was you who used the word challenge.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? So it is a challenge.
It is because it's a process, and every minute we keep changing as coaches and as people. I mean, coaches is just one of the role. Yeah. So bringing your mindset back to it and not knowing who is the client and how they can affect you, but you need to stay sturdy.
Yeah.
It's not that easy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And always remember, if you start reacting, this doesn't mean you're empathizing. Now the focus is on you, right? Absolutely. So we don't want to steal the camera or the light. If we're chatting online on Zoom with our clients, if we're having an online session, we don't need the camera to be on us, right? So it should always be on the client. We can feel, we can sense what they're saying, but we should not react. And these are two separate things. So this is where the real challenge is, to train yourself not to react to it. Yes, Mona. And I'm just going to say that I would love to take a group picture. So if those of you who are not on video, if you can put yourselves on video, I'm going to listen to Mona first, and then we're going to take a group picture. Yes, Mona.
Right. Speaking about a coaching mindset, I think we always skip the fact that coaching is a co-creative relationship, and any relationship should not be devoid of fun. So it has to be a professional relationship, but it has to be fun to sit with a coach and not to be afraid of. We always talk about safety, but we don't talk about coaching being a fun practice where the client feels really completely at ease, feels that they're sitting with a partner. I think we have to remind ourselves that it has to be fun. And my clients often, end the session saying that we feel very energized, and it has boosted our morale, and we feel 100% more positive than when we first started. Just
Mhm.
wanted to raise this point.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I have a reservation on the word fun. I would say we should keep it relevant, right? So relevant to the conversation. So for example, if your client is
Relevant.
grieving, yeah,
Mhm.
we can't have a fun conversation if they're grieving or if they're experiencing any type of loss. You know, they're coming with this significant, and they are coachable. And so we should focus on keeping the conversation relevant and on point. So I love what Huda said a few minutes ago about boundaries. Remembering that this is a relationship that is bound by boundaries. So this is not two friends talking to one another. Rather, we are setting an example by really showing up as positive and confident and also empathetic. Yes, Lynn, go ahead.
Thanks. I realize we've run out of time, but I was taking my time trying to flesh out the question. So my understanding of the coaching mindset has also been that it can grow to a point where you are not specifically treating coaching as an act, but as a way of being. And so how exactly can that, how do you move away from just it being a practice to it being the way you naturally show up? Yeah, I think that's
a good question.
That makes sense.
Since we mentioned the word challenge, so we have to remember, you know, how can I be, or how can I embody something that I'm not? Practice, 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 because we became who we are as a result of practicing for so long. Yes, Huda.
Yes, that just I'd love to share with you an incident that happened to me just a couple of days ago, and it was like an alarm for me. Exactly what has been shared now, which if I may share,
Yes, go ahead.
just like 30 seconds. I was having a dinner with a friend, and she was like talking and talking and putting all these issues, and I was trying to think with her and thinking of solutions. And so, solutions were on the table. And she told me, Huda, do you do this? You bring solutions? And like she was shocked, like I'm supposed to be a coach and I shouldn't be saying solutions and sharing and like that. And it was, my God, it was such an alarm for me that I'm putting more than one hat, and I did not realize that until then. And yes, my original Huda is I like to think with people and find solutions, knowing wisdom lives within. Yes, I agree. But sometimes you make it easier with a friend or a family member or something like that, or, but that is like a red line, with the coaching. And so I am embodying two personalities or two mindsets.
Yeah, but also don't beat up yourself too much about it, because you were having dinner with a friend. So you're allowed to be whoever you want to be. Yeah, but if I reflected that's a defense mechanism as well. I try to listen to what she was saying, and to do the reflection and to journal about it. Actually, I did journal. Great job. Reflective practice. Great job. Awesome.
It was a big one.
Yeah.
It was a big one between, chit-chatting and, and then thinking together with one mind, and between the coaching mindset. But it looks like this is how you are perceived as well, with, with even from close people. So I just wanted to share that without conclusion. Just everyone can process it.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that with us. Absolutely. So going back to Lynn's question, how can I embody something that I'm not? Well, basically, I always say, I could be Razan, but when I'm with my client, I'm the coach. Yeah. Full stop. I'm the coach. So I'm not even a name, right?
You are two. You're two mindsets. The mindset of the friend and the mindset of a coach.
Depends on the moment.
It depends, exactly. And also, if I'm sitting with my children, for example, I'm not coaching them, right? Like, I'm being the parent. If I'm sitting with a friend, I'm being a friend. If I'm sitting with a sibling, I'm the sister, right? So what happens outside of the session, it's your agenda. It belongs to your own private life. But when you are paid to be present with a client, then it's all about the client and it's never about us, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You guys have raised excellent points, and also you've asked some great questions. I really want to thank you for being so present.